is like a net that was let down into a lake and caught all kinds of fish. When it was full, the fisherman pulled it up on the shore. Then he sat down and collected the good fish in baskets and threw the bad fish away. This is how it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come and separate the wicked from the righteous and throw them into a blazing furnace where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Have you understood all these things? Jesus asked. Yes, they replied. He said to them, therefore, every teacher of the law has become a disciple in the kingdom of heaven, is like an owner of a house who brings out of his storeroom new treasures as well as old. This is the word of the Lord. So Matthew 13 has a number of parables in it. We've gone through a couple of them. 2 weeks ago, we talked about the first parable in our series was on 4 different soils. You had a sower that was indiscriminately throwing seeds everywhere. Some of it landed on a hard, worn path that birds took and ate as a meal. Some of the fields were rocky and others were choked with weeds, and so neither scenario, the roots took deep root and the sun scorched them. But there was a 4th soil. It was a good soil. And the seed found deep roots and produced a harvest exponentially larger than what was planted. He who has ears, let them hear. Second parable we talked about last week switched the metaphor. Now there's just one field. It's the earth. But there are 2 seeds. One sown by the good sower who scattered seeds of wheat and waited for the wheat to grow and to be harvested. But in the night, an enemy came and sowed bad seed. Seeds that produce nothing, seeds of weeds, of tares that look at the beginning like wheat but bear no harvest. Instead, they steal. They rob the soil of its nutrients so that the wheat struggles to grow up towards the sun. They grow faster because weeds have an advantage that they don't produce anything, so they can just focus on growth to choke out the sunlight. And then he switches after switching the metaphor around, telling these 2 stories, he tells 3 parables in quick succession. Parables that are united around searching, seeking, looking for things of value. First one, somebody's out and about, looking at some fields to purchase, discovers a treasure, and says, this treasure is worth far more than the field. I'm going to sell everything I can to buy this field that I might have the treasure that's in it. Second one is a pearl merchant, somebody who knows pearls, somebody who's spent his whole life studying pearls that he might know what is valuable and which is pebbles, I don't know, bad pearls. And he finds a pearl of huge value. And like the first person who finds a treasure in the field, he sells everything, goes back and buys that pearl and has a joy of finding a treasure of exceeding value. Then, the final parable, a dragnet, a net that goes down and pulls up indiscriminately fish of all sorts. And then somebody who's seeking good fish, separating out the good from the bad, and then discarding that which has no value, those bottom feeders that make you ill when you eat them. It's 3 stories that are united on a common theme: searching, finding, looking, and discovering what it is they're looking for. And it's permeated by joy, especially the first 2 are about joy. I can't believe this treasure is mine. Now, what you may have noticed in these 3 parables is the perspective shifts, the POV changes. In the first 2 parables, those are about us as seekers, us as people out in the world looking for something of value and finding it. But then, in the twist of the 3rd parable, we become what is sought. God is the searcher. God is the one, as Krista reading from the Psalm, what is all through the Old Testament of God looking for those who are looking for him. Jesus talking about returning and saying, will I find faith when I come back? Will I look and find what I'm looking for? So it's parables about how we are both seekers and we are sought. We are looking for someone looking for us. That person looking for us, searching, is looking for people who are trying to find him. The image that Krista gave us at the beginning of being lost in a Target. You turn around and parents gone. That panic. That is a moment that Jesus is talking about here, of looking for someone looking for them. And the joy, the relief of being found and discovered. Or on the other side is God's joy, of God seeking and saving that which has been lost. Jesus coming to us as a shepherd, looking at us as sheep and saying, these people are lost without a shepherd. They're looking for a good shepherd to care for them. Start with the first parable, a treasure buried in a field. It might not surprise you to know that 2,000 years ago, there was no such thing as a 401k. There was no market to invest in. There were no brokers to help you invest wisely. There's no way for money to grow in a digital space so that your money is safe and out of the reach of thieves, although they do try to get your passwords. And there are brokers who will steal from you. But you know what I'm saying, right? That in the ancient times, if you wanted to have some extra money and you wanted to put that somewhere where it could potentially grow in value or simply hold its value, you would buy something of value and then you would hide it. Now, why would you hide a treasure? Well, it's the same reason you lock your car in your home at night. There are people who would see that treasure and want to take it for themselves, thieves. So in this story is a man who finds a treasure that has been hidden. This would have been the equivalent of winning the lottery, spending $1 and winning millions. That here's somebody who sees the value, recognizes it, hides it again, buys the field because whatever's on that property becomes theirs. Now, you would think, don't they disclose that in the agreement? Wouldn't that be something you would disclose? Oh, by the way, this $10,000 property has a $10 million. I don't know if that impacts the price at all, but there's a $10 million treasure in there. Is there a deception here? And that's where you don't want to misuse the parables, because if somebody said, I was tricked and you hid something of value and you hid it from me, you didn't disclose it, I have a right to that. And they said, well, not according to Jesus, they would say, that's not the point of the parable. The point of the parable is that something is hidden in the world. Something has been hidden to keep away from the wrong sorts of people. When Jesus talks about parables, he says, I tell parables so that those with ears to hear my words and receive it as if it were a great treasure. And those who hear my words and are the wrong sorts of people, those who would misuse and abuse this good news, well, it's hidden from them. It remains hidden. It's like a treasure in a field, hidden away from thieves, hidden away from those with bad intent. And you know from Matthew 13 who those folks are. They're the ones who are saying, Jesus, stop talking in riddles and tell us point blank who you are and what you came for. It's like, okay, I will. It's like a treasure hidden in a field. I'm like, no, that's the very thing you're not supposed to do. And Jesus explicitly says, I talk in this way that those with hard hearts may have harder hearts, and those with good hearts might hear the good news and receive it with joy. This is not a story about a trickster, but a person who recognizes something of value in the ordinary. Same with the pearl. Somebody who has an eye that is trained, that has seen tens of thousands of pearls, and knows when something has value. It's somebody who's spent a lifetime studying something of great value, so that when the moment comes and he recognizes a pearl that has extraordinary value, with confidence and joy says, this is the pearl that I've been looking for all of my life. And then, in the third parable, it moves from us as seeking God, looking for value, and God as seeking us, looking for us, calling out to us. Eyes over the world, looking for those who are faithful, who trust God, who value what he values. God looking for people that are looking for him. God as the treasure that we seek over and against everything else. Jesus as what has haunted us from the dawn of time, that which is the treasure that we desperately seek. Now, I want to tell a parable of my own, if that's okay. I'm going to borrow Jesus' parable. I'm just going to invert it, okay? So imagine this. A man goes out into a field, finds a treasure of immense value, hides it again, finds out who the broker is or the owner of the field, and let's just say it's somebody named Jacob, somebody who in Scripture is a known trickster and a known deceiver. Jacob, I'd like to buy your field. Oh, okay. It's good. It's been on the market for a while. I'm really glad somebody's finally interested in it. What do you want for it? Okay, let me sell everything, come back to you tomorrow with it. Goes, buys the field, claims the treasure, and then finds a broker of high-valued goods, somebody that is known in the community as being trustworthy, of giving fair value for things, and presents with joy to the broker the treasure. And the broker looks at it, sighs deeply, and says, I am so sorry to be the one to tell you this. Did you buy this from Jacob? Yes, I did. Jacob is known to put forgeries in his field. He is known in properties that aren't moving as quickly as they should to trick people into buying the field. And when they come back and try to sue him and get their money back, he says, I don't know, you didn't disclose to me that there's a treasure and you paid the value we agreed to. And they're stuck with this worthless property that won't yield any fruit. You've probably experienced being tricked. There's a time when I put a deposit on a car from somebody that was, we'll just say somewhere in Eastern Europe, that had hacked a friend's bank account and Facebook account and was trying to sell to their friends cars and PlayStations and things below market rate, and they were asking for deposits. I never thought, why does she want a deposit? This is weird. I've known her for a very long time. Well, that feeling of, I just sent $1,000. We should have talked about this before the sermon, Lindsay, but I got it back. Don't worry. It all came back. And that feeling of I was deceived. Imagine feeling that about your life. Imagine the realization, I have invested my whole life into the wrong thing, into a treasure that's a forgery, that wasn't real. I was tricked and I was deceived. In the parable of the wheat and the tares, as the workers of the field are confused about, didn't you plant good seed here? Why is evil growing alongside righteousness? Why is good plants, good wheat growing alongside a weed? What does Jesus say? An enemy did this. When Jesus talks about that enemy, Satan, the devil, he calls him the deceiver. Somebody who lies, cheats, and steals. Somebody who spends every waking hour in the middle of the night tricking people into giving their life to something that is fruitless and a waste of a life. And in recruiting people and joining them to act like him in the world. When Jesus talked about his enemies, he said, you're children of your father. You act just like him. You're violent, you lie, you betray, you claim to follow God so that you can be like a wolf that the sheep let in the gate, so that you can devour. And when Jesus speaks of the weeds growing in the wheat, he's speaking of people who look like the people they're following. There are people that you know and experiences that you've had with people where you say, this person willfully hurt me. This person knew what they were doing and they stole from me. Jesus says that person is acting just like their father and following their father. But the more ordinary, the more mundane evil that we see in our lives are the people who are more or less asleep, that just say this is just how the world is. It's nothing personal. It's just business. What evil and harm has been done with the words, it's not personal, it's just business? Anyone have a good experience with somebody saying that to you? It's not personal, it's just business. Well, it sure feels very personal. People sleeping, realizing too late in their life when they are at the end, and as a pastor, I've had a few tragic, haunting experiences at the end of a person's life where they realize, I wasted it. I'm alone. I realize that everything I pursued had no value. I should have realized that when I said out loud, I'm trying to grab that brass ring. Because one thing about brass, it's not great value. Like, imagine spending your whole life for a brass ring and saying, like, cool, I wish I had gold, silver, titanium, or anything more than brass. Like, doesn't brass turn your finger green? I'll Google that later. There are two things that broke Jesus' heart. If you think about one of the times when Jesus was vulnerable to those around him and expressed grief, sorrow, and sadness, I would bet that the first thing that came to most of our minds is John chapter 11. It's a story of his friend Lazarus. He receives the word that he's quite sick to come and to heal and do something. He, to use an old-fashioned word, tarries. He gets there eventually, and by that time, he's already been in the tomb for a few days. And he walks into a community, a place he grew up, people he knew, faces that were familiar, disfigured in grief. Martha, where were you? If you'd been here, my brother would not have died. Mary says the same thing. Where were you? If you'd been here, my brother would not have died. And he says to Mary, take me to where he is. And when Jesus looks at his friends and the community he grew up in, lost in grief, and when he says, there's my friend over there in a tomb, dead. John 11:35. Those of you in Awanas, that's probably one of the first ones you've memorized because it's two words. Jesus wept. He bellows out so much that the grief around him stops. And people look at him and say, look at how he loved his friend. The first time we see Jesus broken, heartbroken, is over the realities of death and loss. The second is when he saw people who colluded with death and loss. There's a time when a rich young ruler comes to him, much like in this parable he's telling. This may have been what he was thinking about when he told this parable. Somebody who had great wealth and great power and says, what do I have to do to follow you? Jesus sees him and says, I'm afraid you have very late stages of greed and power consumption. This is like an intervention. What you need to do is sell everything, come back to me, and receive heavenly treasure. And he goes away sad because he had so many things. And Jesus himself is grieved. But the most powerful, the only other time I can think of where Jesus is told to have wept is when he is going into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday. He's entering in, welcomed by the crowds, Hosanna, God save us, God rescue us, laying down palm branches and clothing as they're welcoming a king, as they're welcoming a liberator. And Jesus gets to Jerusalem in what should have been the most climactic moment of his life up to then, when people are welcoming him as the Messiah. He falls on the ground and he weeps. And he says, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how I, like a mother hen, wanted to cover you and protect you with my wings. But you would not have me. Heartbroken over the way his own people would not welcome him and receive him. Jesus, in the third parable, takes the perspective of God now. In the end, Just as we are ones who seek value, seek treasure, so too is God. We are the treasure that he seeks. And in the end, he gives an image, an apocalyptic image of a sorting or separating, of him looking for fish of value, putting them in a basket, and then those that are the bottom feeders, the fish that would cause illness and harm, throwing them away. And you have a moment of weeping and gnashing of teeth. You have in this final moment Jesus speaking a final word. And in that word, to those who rejected this moment of grief and sorrow and realization, when I talked about those who are deceived and tricked, those who invest their life in a counterfeit, who don't actually have the eyes to recognize something of value, that at some point there's a realization, I've been tricked, I've been deceived. And the way that realization that I was wrong, the realization of I went down the wrong path, the path that led to my own destruction. The biblical language for that is weeping and gnashing of teeth. It's the sound of somebody wailing in despair, of calling out for comfort and finding no comfort. And Jesus, in talking about that, he's not trying to make us afraid, even though when you hear these images, can I be honest? It's a little scary, right? You know, that final image of wheat and tares, of good fish and bad fish, the sense of what kind of fish am I? Where will I be sorted? Am I wheat or weeds? Which one am I? Jesus is not appealing to fear. Fear is not a fruit of the Spirit. Fear is not a tool in God's tool belt. But he is speaking truth. That is something that God does without exception. And it's a truth that we find quite difficult. We find it difficult to realize, it is possible to waste a life. It is possible to pass by a treasure and not recognize its value. It is possible to buy a pearl at great expense and realize that it's a forgery. It's not a real pearl, and that there were signs that you missed along the way. It's a sobering reality that I have to name because Jesus names it. He talks about it. And I try not to make it a habit to correct Jesus' theology. So I want to say two things about this, hopefully that bring encouragement as we head to the table. The first is when, in Matthew 11, Jesus invited people to come. In Matthew 11, just 2 chapters before, he is expressing frustration with the leaders of Israel, that they are not leading people to places of rest, still waters, green pastures, but they are wolves who see the people of God as commodities and exploiting them. And what he says there to the people that are listening, come to me, all who are weary and heavy burdened. For I am humble and gentle in heart. I will share the burden with you. When you are yoked to me, my burden is light, and my work is easy. So the first point is you have the work of the enemy of God who sows seeds of destruction and those who collude with them. And what Jesus is saying is, I'm the treasure you seek. I have come to bring you rest. And then he speaks both in the parable of the wheat and the tares and with the fish of a final moment of judgment. A final moment where evil is seen for what it is and is dealt with forever. That his two enemies of death and destruction, of evil, are dealt with in a way that is final and irreversible. And what that means is it will never have a place in God's good world ever again. Without judgment, without a vision of that moment, virtue the real way we live amidst our suffering has no significance. Without this promise from Jesus himself that he will deal with it himself once and for all. Our lives, our real lived lives, the way we suffer in ways that maybe only you and God know about, has no value unless in the end God deals with it once and for all. Otherwise, why would we not hit back? Why would we not repay evil with evil? If God's not going to deal with it, then who's it up to? You and me. And without a clear vision of the final moment where God deals with it once and for all, you will try to deal with it. Either by lashing out to those who do harm, or by internalizing it and living a life of despair and hopelessness. Jesus tells us, I am looking for those who are faithful. I am searching for it. And part of that searching means that in the end, they will be vindicated. God himself will wipe away every tear. That he himself will deal with the evil we've spent our whole life resisting. What he asks for us is to act like a people who found the treasure that they were seeking. To know that I've been given a treasure that will not be taken away. Paul will later say, nothing will separate you from God's love. Nothing will separate you. And he lists it, but all I'm saying in his list is there are things, and his point is nothing will separate you. No evil can outweigh the treasure. All he asks is that we become people that would do anything to hold on to that treasure, to give up anything, whether it's our resources or our pride. And I'll tell you what, if you gave me a choice between writing a check and swallowing my pride, I'd at least look at my bank account. I thought that was funny. Whether it's our need for control, our need for revenge, our need to hurt those who hurt us, we must know that in the end, God himself will deal with it. And what he asks us to do is to not pull the weeds of evil around us, but to grow strong and tall and fruitful. When we suffer evil and death, when our heart breaks over the same things that we saw break Jesus' heart, we remain faithful. In a world where we're invited to be on the right side of history and oppose those that are evil and on the wrong side of history, we do not join in the evil done to us, but remain patient and kind, persistently seeking peace and justice, learning to forgive because we have an image in our minds of God dealing once and for all with evil. And our treasure is hearing God say to you, well done. Well done, good and faithful servant. I saw what happened. I was with you. Well done in remaining faithful. Learning to forgive, learning to surrender those who do evil into the arms of God, saying, God, I cannot carry the burden of judgment anymore. I surrender them into your arms, not because I'm forgiving and forgetting, but because I'm forgiving and remembering that in the end you will have the last word. We have gained a treasure that overwhelms us with the joy, like the man who found a treasure and the man who found a pearl. Christianity, and this will be the theme for September, so act surprised, but the Christianity is a religion of joy. N.T. Wright writes that Judaism is a religion of hope, hoping in God to come to us. Christianity is a religion of joy because he has come. The treasure is Jesus. May you find the peace and joy that you seek. For the treasure you seek has a name, and it's Jesus. And as you come to the table, come with empty hands. For I'm not inviting you to take communion. I'm inviting you to receive it. For it's already been prepared. All you need to do is come with open and empty hands and receive the treasure that's been given. Let me pray for us. Father, as we come to the table, may we do so as ones filled with joy at the treasure they found. The body broken for us. The blood given to us as the forgiveness of all sins. The treasure is here. As we come to the table, may we receive it as the treasure that it is. Fill us with hope and joy. Give us an image of the final moment when you will come back to us and rid the earth of evil and death once and for all. May we be filled with joy, and may that joy be knowing your joy of having found us. We come to the table today with empty hands and open hearts to receive the treasure of great value. We would come to receive Jesus, in whose name we pray. Amen. Come to the table.